Yeah, good evening. Today today I've taken another 5 questions for our discussion. And they have some external slant, the global dimension. Because a lot of economics is domestic and some of it is a global aspect. Remember, IMF, World Bank, WTO. So the first question is about universal basic income. The next one is about global corporate tax reforms. Third one is about geo-economic developments. Another one is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And the last one, MSP, and you should suggest 2 reforms in the MSP policy of today. Wherever you have questions, you're most welcome to ask me for explanation. I may not answer you immediately. I'll look into the questions and I'll answer you. But my effort is to make sure that you understand without any problem so that you don't even get any questions. Everything is so crystally clear. I'll try to do that. So now let's start with the universal basic income. See, there was a time 4 or 5 years back, robotics, automation, there was a fear that the job displacement by the robots would be widespread. So many will not have their jobs intact. And how will they live? Just as you are thinking about it in relation to artificial intelligence. So many jobs will be gone, some will be created, there'll always be a replacement. Some jobs will go, some jobs will come. There could be the beneficial equation. So when there is such fear, after all, someone has to consume. If all of us are outside, out of our jobs, there'll be production for whom? Okay, you tax the robot, collect the money, and then give it to us so that what the robots produce we'll consume. No, I'm just taking it to the logical extreme. So, in that context, also in the context of take the world today, India, we can talk of India. Take India today, and when you see India today, we have not fully recovered. We have not fully recovered. K-shaped growth. The luxury sectors have recovered. But the informal sector hasn't recovered. And in the process, there is inequality. Some are better off. Some could even be worse off. The inequality is widening. And poverty is extreme poverty may be gone, but poverty is more than extreme poverty. Dehumanizing, exclusionary. harmful to the economy also, because where there is poverty, there is no consumption, there is no demand, there is no investment, nothing, there is no growth. So, in the post pandemic economies, like the developing economies, because of the worsening of inequality and poverty, consumption has fallen. And we need to augment the incomes of uh, the informal sector employees, which is quite significant. About 80-85% of employment in the country is informal. Even as 50% of the GDP is contributed by the formal sector, they employ only about 10% of the, workforce. So it's in this context of generating growth by boosting consumption, shrinking inequality, alleviating poverty. It's in this context that the idea of universal basic income, financial transfers. You remember while dealing with the GDP, we said that the expenditure side of the GDP involves transfers like scholarships and pensions. They are not a part of the GDP, and so they should be kept out. When you are talking of expenditure, you can't say financial transfers are a part of the GDP. We read this while dealing with the basics. That's okay. I mean, this is not a methodological issue we are confronting. This is a welfare and development issue we are looking at. Which means, how do you ensure that there is consumption, there is growth, there is investment, there is supply, there is jobs and all that. So some development economists suggested let's resort to UBI, a universal basic income. Actually, some years back, the economic survey also talked about it, because such was the condition of the economy of the world and also India. You needed a remedy for the falling growth, falling consumption, growing unemployment. You had to have a solution. That solution is, uh, at least initially, UBI. But UBI comes with challenges. It's an idea that sounds appealing, but it is riddled with challenges. We are 1.4 billion people, you know? 1.4 billion. And by Rangarajan definition of poverty, that was given 10 years back, there should be about 250 million people below the poverty line. And if COVID has worsened it, there could be more. So these are the poor people, and the people above them are not well off. They are also poor. About 50-60% of the people are compromising on uh, consumption because of lack of adequate income. So, so many universal doesn't mean surely those who are paying income tax, those who are government employees, those who have four-wheelers and so on, they'll all be excluded. The term is universal. Today, Kisan Samman is universal. Big farmer, small farmer, marginal farmer, all of them get the Kisan Samman. That's because, it's convenient and it can't be divisive and so on. But the UPI cannot be, uh, you know, universal. It's called universal, but universal means as many as possible. Even then, I've told you how many people are below the poverty line. I've also told you about, 60% could be in dire need of these financial transfers, DBT. direct benefit transfer. You call that social security net, social safety net. The social security depends upon the income security. And that is why the DBT is a social safety net mechanism. So, number one is we are so many people, and it costs lakhs of crores of rupees. So, that is the financial side. I've told you the benefits. Benefits are too many. But on the financial side, on the expenditure side, if you are looking at it, you have the challenge of having to meet you know, the bill, which runs into, in 2017, the survey estimated $20 billion. But how do you estimate? What is the basis? It's too complex an issue. So number one is the bill. That is the fiscal burden it imposes on the government, which is already strapped, which already is running, the target is 5.9% of the GDP. Elections are coming, it could exceed 5.9. So, the expenditure, the fiscal burden of it, point number one. Secondly, who do you exclude? Who do you include? Is it on the basis of caste or, ethnicity? Will you include all the women, exclude some? All that. So, inclusion exclusion challenge is a very big one. That is point number two. Point number three, today you've got a lot of schemes. Manrega, you have to work to earn. And then you've got free food coming to you under the PDS till the end of the current calendar. You've got women who go to the hospital for their delivery, they get some financial transfer. And Kisan Samman you got. So yes, you got so many financial transfers and work-related payment programs. Narega, Mahatma Gandhi Narega. You've got community health centers, primary health centers, All India Institutes of Medical Science, all this you got. So when you have all this, will you desubsidize and convert the savings for use for financial transfers? Okay, don't give food, no PDS, you save money, about 2 lakh crores, pass it on as. But that is not advisable because today you've got a nationwide institution, the PDS, the FP shops, and there is a process, Food Corporation of India, godowns and so on and so forth. So you retain them because decades and decades have taken for you to install this system. You should not tinker with that. And will you withdraw some of the subsidies on fertilizer? How can you? Food, how can you? Health, how can you? Ayushman Bharat, you can't. So none of the subsidies is amenable for reduction, rationalization. No. Some in the urban areas, some food stamps could be introduced that can be encashed for grain. But that's a very fringe sort of reform. So whom to exclude, whom to include is a big challenge in this. That is point number two. We have already talked of whom to exclude, whom to include. We talked about the fiscal bill. We talked about rationalization of subsidy yields very little. Little bit of water. You want to withdraw that money from water. That's not the aim of the UBI. The aim of the UBI is enable you to consume more. So, in the place of subsidy, if you are giving DBT, then it is a solution worse than the problem. That's another issue with it. Fourth is, you know, Manrega. They're working so hard labor they are putting in for the notified wage. Why will people work if they're getting money free? Even Manrega people won't work. It disincentivizes work. That is a major, conceptual challenge with the UBI. Take work. Farmers, you are giving 6,000. That doesn't mean they'll stop farming. Domestic help during COVID, you passed on some money. That doesn't mean they'll stop working. But if you are institutionalizing across the board on a viable basis as a replacement for work and profession, the DBT, then that could be a huge, a disincentive to work. That is the fourth one. Fifth one is, okay, you're giving so much of money instead of subsidies and so on. Do you have the market spread out across the country? I'm in Delhi, you give me the UBI, maybe I'll go to the shop and buy for my family, myself. But the market system is not developed in the rural areas and interior areas. If you just give them money, because you got jam, you've got, Jan Dhan, you've got Aadhaar, you've got mobile, you've got this mobile, Aadhaar, etc. But that only enables you to transfer the money. And do what with the money? Am I getting good quality rice, wheat, millets, oil, biscuits, medicines? Nothing. So this money that you are transferring, merely because there is digital systems of transfer, it goes nowhere because you may say once the money is there, demand is there, supply will be there. But this demand created by an ad hoc program of UBI, based on that, nobody is going to install supplies. Supplies require investment for production and distribution. And that requires structural demand, not ad hoc demand. Even if you legislate the UBI, it still doesn't mean that it's here to stay. So supplies won't be there. It could be hyperinflationary. Today all of us read in the papers. We have read in the newspapers that Argentina, inflation is 115%. There's money chasing goods. Same thing will happen here. Unless supplies are guaranteed. How are you going to guarantee supplies? You can guarantee income transfer, financial. Supplies you can't guarantee because the government is not the producer, private sector is the producer. So there could be serious inflationary pressures. These are all the challenges. The biggest challenge is when you already have a distribution system for social security in the country. Why tinker with it? Whatever you pass on, you have to pass on as a add-on, additionality, over and above. You can't pass it on, at the expense of subsidies. That is undoing what you've done to global applause in the last 5-6 decades. Are you telling me Jan Aushadhi won't be there? You'll just throw money into my pocket, into my account. I have to go around and buy medicine. In Jan Aushadhi I get it for 2 rupees. In the market it will be 20 rupees. So, it's a very, very complex issue. The best is that we boost the economic growth, we make it inclusive, we redistribute the tax collections and borrow something, and extend it from farmers to, like in Madhya Pradesh, they are doing it for women. So you can do it. After all, uh, you know, so that is the way to go for your UBI, Universal Basic Income. Precisely for this reason, actually, some years back, there was a referendum in Switzerland. Shall we or shall we not go for the UBI? And in the referendum, they said, don't go for the UBI. Everything is so fine today. If it's not fine, you improve. But don't shift the system towards UBI because it's an unknown devil. Known devil, unknown devil. So let's get along with the known devil and improvise on it. That is the meaning of the rejection of the idea of UBI in Switzerland about 5-6 years back. So that's about the UBI question. And in case you got some questions, I would like to take it. Yeah. So you see, this is about the UBI. Now, there is another concept that had come in the prelim some years back, maybe 16 or so, BEPS. And it could come in the main because the global corporate tax reforms, global corporate tax reforms, which are, uh, likely to come into effect this year, because there is a question mark because in America also Biden is facing resistance from the global digital giants. He may not like to antagonize them. Elections are coming next year. And Saudi Arabia is not liking it. Apparently, India is also not liking it. Let's see. So, corporate tax reforms across the world. These reforms, see what's happening is, take Amazon as an example. Amazon as an example. It's registered somewhere in Ireland. It is selling in India left, right, and center. It's amassing so much of money in India. And when you asked Amazon, pay me some tax, GST to everyone pays. GST everyone pays. You have to pay because we are providing services to you for you to pay the GST. So there's we are providing services, you're paying the tax. But direct tax, when we ask you to pay, you are telling us we are registered in Ireland. We are a global company. All our profit booking we will do in Ireland. We will pay them the corporate tax. After all, double taxation avoidance is very important. Otherwise, there won't be any investment. Cross border, both ways, investment, there won't be. So, we could not do anything about it. That was the dialogue. Then, OECD and G20. OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. OECD, industrial democracies, West Europe, America, Japan, South Korea, we are not a member. So, 10 years back, they said, base erosion, profit shifting. Your base is here and you are shifting the profits to Ireland, a tax haven. Tax rates are so low, you hardly pay any tax there. India tax rates are, for foreign companies about 30%. So you are non-resident, your business is here, you have to pay me tax, but you are saying you're paying tax in Ireland. You're not paying tax in Ireland either. Or if you are registered in Cayman Island. So, is it double tax avoidance or double avoidance of tax? You're not paying here, you're not paying there. So, how can we leave you alone? So, initially in 2016, our companies are paying tax. Why you not paying tax? Where is horizontal equality? Article 14, equality. Your persons, your companies should be treated equally, more or less. So, you are Google, and this is Hindu newspaper. We are advertising on Google, we are advertising in the Hindu. When we advertise in the Hindu, there is a tax on advertisements. I'm spending 100 rupees. 18% is tax. When I'm advertising on the Google or Facebook or Twitter, no tax. That again violates horizontal equity. Article 14, equality, horizontal equality. So in 2016, Government of India introduced Google tax. They called it equalization levy. Equalization. We are equalizing the domestic platforms for advertisement with the global non-resident. And that was 6%. And then these companies like Amazon, they are making so much money in India. So in 2020 Finance Act, 2% tax was imposed on Amazon, like e-commerce companies, with some basic criteria. So these are called the Google taxes. One is on advertisements, that's basically Google, and the other one is e-commerce. That was 6%, is 2%. By then, this problem was agitating the big countries also. You know what these guys were doing? You're an American company, Amazon, you registered in Ireland, you're paying corporate tax in Ireland, you're not paying to America. Ireland, you're hardly paying. So America needs money, they're borrowing so much, the standoff. So the advanced countries also wanted to discipline these the multinational giants, the digital giants. This is because of digitalization of global economy. Earlier, if you're doing a business in my country, you will have your base in my country. Today, we don't have anyone on Facebook in India. You hardly come across. There's no phone you can make. There's no email. The most faceless company is the Facebook. So the whole problem is, we'll catch you. After all, you're collecting money within our country and we know how much you're collecting based on the 2% you compound. For the time being. I'm sure next year it will become 4% unless the reforms kick in. So these reforms are, they are into two pillars. I'll show you the graphic a little later. Pillar 1, Pillar 2. Pillar 1 is us, the global e-commerce giants who are who are doing business in so many countries. They will pay tax in the country where they have their business. You can't dodge tax by saying I'm paying where I'm registered. I can't pay in multiple places. That argument doesn't hold. You're doing business here, you're making money here, you have to pay us here. That will establish parity between you and the domestic company, without which there is no equality, number one. Government can't collect money, number two. And the government can't take up its welfare strategy, number three. So you cough up. Okay, top 100, and they have to make X amount of profit, and some profit is not taxable at all, higher than all that is okay. And that's pillar one, concerns us. Pillar two is, pillar two is the corporate tax that they are not paying in the countries of their origin, America, etc. Pillar one is pay tax where you're doing business. Pillar 1 concerns countries like India, essentially, predominantly, and Pillar 2 concerns, countries like America, European Union countries who are also victims of BEPS, base erosion profit shifting. Now, so what obligations will it cast on India? If everything is fine, what are you getting by? Google is 6%, Google tax. We can make it 8%. We have to take it all the way to 18%. Please remember, there is no sweetheart here. Arm's length. Indian platform, 18%. Why should Google, Facebook, Twitter, why should they not cough up 18%? So 6 is the beginning, waiting for good outcomes from this OECD G20, inclusive deal, inclusive framework on BEPS. Otherwise, we'll take it to 18. How much money? 18 by when? Maybe in about 4-5 years. How much money are you getting? X amount. India with 1.4 billion people, Amazon is required even before the baby is born. Maybe tomorrow, day after, Amazon will sell liquor also, unless they're already selling liquor. So it's going to be a crazy amount of money they'll make here. We'll collect a lot of tax. How much is that? Y. X. Google, Y. Amazon, X plus Y is equal to 100. And if this deal is going to, pillar 1 is going to fetch you that much of money, fine. We'll be fine with the deal. We agreed to go by it, but then it's not come into effect yet. Otherwise, we will not go with it. And what are the obligations it's going to cast on you? You have to withdraw these equalization levies on Google's and Amazon's. That's the obligation it will cast on you. There'll be some more terms you have to agree to. That's about the corporate tax rates, etc., etc. And it's expected to come into effect before the calendar ends. Expected to. It's already June, and let's see, something will be talked about it. Our Prime Minister visit to America, I think it will come up. And so it all depends upon whether America would like to go ahead or not. If they don't want to go ahead, it will not go ahead, because America is the power behind all this. America is generally not too comfortable. Saudi Arabia, apparently India. Apparently. We have no idea. Nobody is talking about it. I just thought it could come in the exam if it does come into effect. If it comes into effect, it's a pretty good candidate for the exam. That's the, global corporate tax reform. That's the global corporate tax reform. You've got any questions? I would love to answer them. And if it does come in the exam, expect this also to be very, very important for your preliminary. preliminary. You know, this is the standard of the prelim and the main exam. This is 11th class standard. We can't lower than this. You know, lowering would be like giving you some opium. That will give you psychological satisfaction, but the outcomes may not be to your expectations. So, this is the level you should get tuned into. Simple. I think I've made it simpler than I've not given you all sorts of details. 250 words. So, this is it about the base erosion and profit shifting. Then let's get into geoeconomics. You know, I'm pushing the frontier a little bit. Why? Because you see, UPSC is pushing the frontier. So we have to also, you know, we have to also. This geoeconomics is very interesting. One of the purposes for my lectures is, you're full of intelligence. You would like to be challenged. Means, take up challenges. So if you are exposed to this, the best of you will come out. That's the idea. In this question I have said, please read the question. You won't get any clue as to what it is. I considered 15 ways of formulating the question. I thought this is the formulation that will give you no hint as to what's happening. Analyze recent geoeconomics. So we don't know what is geoeconomics. How is India well placed to use them to its advantage? It could be anything. Answer with examples from. So I have not given any clue as to what it is. If I had been slightly more concessional in formulating the question, you would have splurged. You would have written a brilliant answer. You'll still be writing. But the way the question is formulated, leave it so abstract that you're not giving any, hint to the student. Yeah. So let me start. See, geoeconomics, there is no definition of geoeconomics. There is a description of it. What is geoeconomics? Geoeconomics is using economic means to attain geopolitical advantages. After all, everything is finally political. Economics as a tool for geopolitical advantages. Economic instruments, investment, trade, technology, migration, all that. So using economic instruments for gaining geopolitical hegemony, geopolitical domination, to be a leading power in the world. These are all, that is geoeconomics. But that is the practical side of it. Go to the theoretical side. Any economic event that has significant impact on the geopolitical relations is geoeconomics. That's a part of the geoeconomics as a subject matter. So I'll come back. Listen to me carefully. So, India is there. 1.4 billion people. $3.75 trillion worth of economy. 500 million labor force. 500 million. And then exports of $450 billion. Imports of about, say, $700 billion. I'm talking of only goods. Foreign direct investment last year, $86 billion gross. Diaspora, look at India's diaspora in America. What is it that they can't do? They are in Congress, they are governors, some of them are judges at some level and scientists. They control Meta, they control Alphabet. So these are the economic resources we have. We want to convert them into our global power. to emerge as a leading power, not to be vulnerable, to be able to uplift the global south for enlightened self-interest, to be a part of the UNSC permanent member wielding the veto. So you want to be powerful, you want to dominate, you don't want to be vulnerable. Use your economics to that so that you can have impact on the geopolitics to your advantage. That's geoeconomics. Use economic resources for gaining global power, geopolitical power. Geopolitics in a geography for domination. That is geopolitical. And if this is geopolitics, this is geoeconomics, an instrument for geopolitical advantage. That's the practice side of it, practically the way you use the resources. And surely any economic event that may not be intended, but that event has impact on the geopolitics, that is also a subject matter of geoeconomics. I'll give you examples. You know, so many examples I'll give you. Recent, and recent. Recent could be, it need not be yesterday, about 15 years, not Second World War. One example I'll give you is global financial crisis 2008. Global financial crisis. You know the meltdown, you know how the asset bubbles burst, and you know how American leadership was questioned, and China was placed to take advantage of it. China was growing, America crashed. Chinese banks were booming, American banks were going bankrupt. Chinese insurance was doing well, American insurance were going bust. So, the Made in America global financial crisis reduced the clout of America and West Europe. And that portion of the power that they lost, China grabbed, China occupied. Because there's no vacuum in the world. Nobody loves vacuum. You have to rush. Abhor a vacuum. So global financial crisis, it is an economic event, but it had the geopolitical impact of enabling China to acquire more power, because this global financial crisis eroded the global standing of America and West Europe. Major tectonic economic event impacting on the global power structure. That's one. Another, I'll take you about the same year, 2008 again. India, America struck a civilian nuclear deal. India being treated as an outcast in the nuclear world stopped. India was into the global nuclear mainstream for trade, investment, manufacture, technology, you name it. That again catapulted India to a higher place in the global power structure. And it changed the course of the economic history of India, strategic history of India. Though, of course, we haven't leveraged fully. I've seen one article saying, change that deal to make America invest in India, supply a liability. That could also come. So that was an economic event where in the global nuclear commerce, India found a place without boycott. NPT we didn't sign and all that. So in the global nuclear commerce, India was participating like other countries. We were not boycotted. We were not excluded. We were not sanctioned. You could import. If you have something, you could export also. You could buy. You could sell. There could be investment in your country for generating nuclear power. And so that changed the complexion of India's strategic credentials. So that's a huge geo-economic event. And once America says you are my friend, a lot of the world will say you are my friend. So India became very, uh, sort of the destination for all this. That's second. That's also recent. And it's in favor of India. So you have to mention. Another one I'll mention to you, the geoeconomics. You know another one. China. China is about $17 trillion at a rate of the yuan, which is, you know, uh, sort of undervalued. If you put the right value to it, if it is about 5 yuan to a dollar, imagine the value of Chinese GDP, almost same as America. So Chinese emergence as an economic powerhouse, using the economic resources for launching the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, and then lending money, building projects. They can't return the money, so you take over the projects, those assets. All this is what? You are using your economic muscle to convert that into political, strategic, and military capital to change the geopolitics in your favor in a very decisive manner. Isn't that geoeconomics? Now I'll tell you what is geoeconomics. Congratulating us. Where is our Prime Minister right now? America. Everyone in America is, excited about it. And last week we signed an agreement, Critical Minerals and Emerging Technologies Cooperation. That is point number one. Last month we got into this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, supply chain resilience, all that. What is supply chain resilience and stability? Shift investment out of China to India. One of the countries is India because no other country has our credentials. And what is this? Critical minerals, renewable energy, aviation, mobile phones. So again, weakening China, strengthening India. And third is very important. Nobody will write it. You have to write it. This is straight out of the mouth of Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. He says, let us collaborate to strengthen the multilateral development institutions, World Bank, IMF, and ADB. If you strengthen them, then you are ensuring that the Chinese financial institutional muscle is put in its place. Otherwise, imagine China has the money, China has the institutions, China has the project capacity, building capacity. So you're surrendering to China. So team up with India, strengthen India, invest in India, critical minerals and stuff, and the institutional framework which has been there from the Second World War, World Bank, IMF, and so on, strengthen that. In the process, the economic empowerment of India is shifting the balance of power away from China in favor of India. I'm not saying it's tilting. I'm saying the balance is favoring India. I'm not saying you're tipping the balance. No, no. China is here, you are here. So, yes, Indo American Strategic Partnership. We are friends, not allies, of course. The economic, $200 billion worth of bilateral trade, goods and services. All this will enable India to play its legitimate part in the global power structure. So, there's also geoeconomics. You're a member of WTO, geoeconomics. FTAs with Australia, negotiating with EU, UK, geoeconomics, FDI, So all this is strengthening your economic muscle, which will translate into military muscle, and that will have its repercussions in favor of India in the global power structure. So this is the example. So what's the question? How is India well placed to use them to its advantage? We are using it to the hilt. I told you FDI, investment, trade, technology, the people that we are, FTAs, all this WTO. And we are also, I'll come to that, AIIB. So India is using its growth story, globalization story, free trade story to its advantage. That will have imprint, not just imprint, that will decisively alter the global power structure, geopolitics in its favor. Answer with examples from India's current initiatives. India, America, current. FTAs, current. IPEF, supply chain resilience and stability, diversification, current. 3 examples, current. India is well placed, of course, well placed, and we are doing all that we can successfully. And we know the definition of geoeconomics. I hope that's fine for you. You got some questions. It's my pleasure to take those questions. It's my pleasure to take your questions. Once you are ready for this kind of answers, whatever comes is picnic for you. But if you are going little at a, lesser level, then you have suspense as to how you will write. After our discussions, there is no suspense. You will roar like a lion. I'm sure about it. Now let's move to question number 4. Question number 4. AIIB. I have not even elaborated AIIB. If you don't see it properly, you could consider it anything you could consider it. I'm talking about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. But before we get started with that, I want you to see the question and the answer. Describe the challenges of making UBI as a part of India's development strategy, not merely welfare. I want the transfers to boost consumption, that is demand, and then supplies also, investment, distribution, employment, all that I want that boosted. So that can't be welfare, that is development, which is growth plus welfare. This is the answer, please go through. There are lots and lots of advantages. Poverty, inequality, economic insecurity. And economic service, 17, quoted. He expects you to quote it. And it's going to cost this much. Well, economic survey estimate how much? $20 billion per year. How it was calculated, we don't know. Because it could be 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe you're saving 50 there, spending 20, gaining 30, which is unethical. You should not do it in a poor country like ours. So what are you expecting? Poverty, inequality, health, boost education, stimulate the economy, etc., etc. Some of the challenges, fiscal implications are a bit mind-blowing. 1.4 billion people. Administrative infrastructure. Of course, you got jam. Of course, you got optical fiber. Your whole country is connected. All that is okay. But here, identify eligible. Universal is not universal. There will be ineligible people. Identify. Leakages, of course, we got the jam, so there won't be much of leakages. Distribution of funds, accountability, all that. What will you do with the existing welfare system that you have developed so painstakingly in an evolutionary manner for the last 5, 6 decades? What will you do with that? That's a huge problem. How will you, uh, you know, ensure how much of subsidy is rolled back and in its place DBT introduced? That's a very huge challenge. It's best not attempted. Either you give subsidies plus the DBT or give whatever DBT you can, but don't touch subsidies because you've done it with so much of welfare commitment. Then what about your public debt? What about your inflation, etc.? And then regional, you all, how do you distribute your money? Tamil Nadu is there developed, there are underdeveloped, etc., etc. Now, behavioral, societal impact. Dependency is okay. Till I'm dependent, I'm dependent. Till I'm independent, I'm dependent. But, this is the discourage workforce participation. I'm a Narega worker and working hard to earn my money for my livelihood. If I'm getting money free, why will I work? And the worst animal on this planet is the one that does not work. If you are not working, you are not living. Work, work, work. Work for yourself, work for society, work for psychological transcendence. You work. Work is life. But then this UBI could seriously puncture that. UBI like Matru Vandana, I told you, delivery, institutionalized delivery, livelihood mission, health mission. In all this, there is scholarships there. Every state, the other day, Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka. People are poor, K-shaped growth, informal economy, cost of living crisis with so much of inflation. So the expectations of the people are till you provide employment to us, give us these, financial transfers. I don't want to call them freebies. I don't want to call them. They're not. They deserve it. You're obliged to give them. But don't call them freebies. DBTs, financial transfers. So you're already giving at state level, at national level. And then add to this Kisan. Samman. So you're already doing it UBI like pilots. Continue to do it, but don't touch the welfare structure. You're playing with lives of people, that to helpless people, voiceless people. Don't do that. Additionally, transforms. That'll be welcome. That's a UBI part. Jam Trinity you have to mention. In the pandemic, you transferred a lot of money. 47 crore beneficiaries were there. 1.5 lakh crores. I'm saying between March to October. See, till October 20, this is the money that got transferred, and this is the number that benefited. Only few months. We've done tremendously well in dealing with COVID by the DBTs, and World Bank and others have praised us. So base erosion, profit shifting. What obligations will it cast on India? how are they related to India? They're related, they're doing work here, they're making money here, not paying tax. Either we tax you unilaterally on our own, independently, or we'll be a part of the global framework and we'll tax you. So, inclusive framework on base and profit shifting, etc. October 21, if you want to say it, you say it. Examiner will think that you've been preparing for a year or two, so you know what's going on, etc. But even if you say late 21, that's okay. Even if you say 21, that's also okay. But must G20, because this is India is the chairperson and of this BEPS compulsory, and pillar 1 is ours, taxing rights over MNCs for their home countries. You see, this you could avoid. This complicates. The examiner may not be ready for complications. If you can write this, you write this. Don't write, but conceptually be clear. Don't get mixed up between pillar 1 and 2. Pillar 1 is India, Amazon. Pillar 2 is America, Amazon again. Why? They're not paying tax in America. They're saying we're paying in Ireland. How many places we pay? No double taxation. Once you say 15% is the minimum corporate tax rate among all the 137 countries, of which Ireland is one of the signatories, then, if Ireland is not there, imagine Ireland is not there. Then, you know what Biden said? This agreement says, whatever you're paying to Ireland, you're my company, you're American company. Why? You began in America, your work is in America, your headquarters are there for all practical purposes. You're all Americans, so you're an American company. You shifted here to Ireland or Cayman or to dodge taxes, they're tax havens. So how much is the tax you're paying? Nothing? Pay me 15. No sir, I'm paying 5 there. Pay me 10. I'm paying 12 there. Pay me 3. If you're paying 12 there, why be there? Hold your head high and operate from out of America. Pay me just 15. That's a minimum. Could be 16. We'll work it out. But hold your head high and pay taxes. That's about, you have to do it. That is pillar 2. 2-pillar solution. Benefits. Benefits are, we know the benefits. You collect the tax. You don't have to borrow so much. You can do welfare and all that. And companies have to pay. That is their basic corporate responsibility, duty. So you have to pay. And so you pay. Government will do. In COVID, you borrowed so much of money. Why borrow so much when you could collect taxes which are legitimately yours, etc., etc. BEPS have given a big definition here, simple definition, but you don't have to bother about technical definitions. Your basic understanding, when you put that into words, it is absolutely amazing, kind of a clarity I come across, etc. If you could ask me questions, I'll be the happiest to answer you. If you don't have questions at all, that is a happier condition. Because why generate questions when there are naturally none? Google tax, equalization, etc. This question came about 4 or 5 years back. And before that also it came. When you introduce the Google tax, it came. The BEPS came the year before that or 2 years before that. And it's not come in the mains yet. And if the deal does come through, then next year prelim also it will come. This year main, if the deal comes through, anytime now, it's an ideal candidate for the main examination. Then geoeconomics, use of economic power to achieve strategic objectives. Strategic means long term. The power over the political order, geopolitical order, that is long term. Strategic means security related. Strategic means long term, and both combined. So, using economic objectives to gain global power, say that, or geopolitical power. etc. That's the meaning. Practical side. The impact of economic events on geopolitics, subset of geopolitics, etc. Increasingly important. It's very important for us because economics is crucial. Conversion of that into geopolitical play is crucial, etc. Talk of BRICS, G20, WTO, whatnot. Number of factors. I told you all the location. We are right here. You know how much of global commercial traffic goes through the Indian Ocean? We are in center of the Indian Ocean. Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal. We are close to Malacca Strait, the Persian Gulf, whatnot. So size, significant economic, political weight in all this. And on top of that, we are a democracy. I gave you the example of rise of China, gave you the example of US-China rivalry. For India, see, you want to come up? What are the challenges? China is a challenge. Even, China is a challenge because they are coming into South Asia and taking away our neighbors from us. And that is a challenge for us. We have to constantly work on it, neighborhood first. And little countries like Bangladesh are coming up. That's also a challenge. And China thinks that we are close to the US and that could become a challenge for us to deal with. It could spill in any manner. Despite these challenges, we have crafted a strategy because we have very experienced people among our leaders conducting our foreign policy. Absolutely experienced people and large growing, I told you everything, skill, all this, investing, all this I told you. Rise of China, one example, recent example. Global financial crisis, China's BRI, rise of India. Rise of India is a huge geo-economic event that's going to leave significant impact on the geopolitics. Geopolitics at a local level, continental level, global level. India, USA, geoeconomics, I've discussed all this with you. IPAF, he looks for this. Trade, he looks for this. Critical minerals, he looks for this. And this is the point I liked by Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. He gave an interview to someone yesterday that came in the papers today. When you and America together strengthen the multilateral development banks, what is he saying? As a G20 chair, you give the idea. As a country with resources, we'll bring resources to the table and let's make the World Bank, IMF, etc. very relevant for the global south. What is bigger than that in terms of geoeconomics working for geopolitics? That's the US. Now, AIIB, I just gave the example to acquaint you with these concepts. It's giving us a lot of money. 2016, AIIB comes. When COVID struck, we took a lot of money from AIIB and people said it's a Chinese bank. While China has occupied some land of India, how was India going to Chinese bank for money? All that nonsense people spoke. That is nonsense. Nonsense. Why? In the AIIB, India is the second largest shareholder. China has about, if I recall right, maybe about 30%. India has 8%. We are the second largest shareholder after us, Russia comes. So it is our bank. We have every right, legal, moral, all of the rights to borrow from AIIB. We borrowed more than $4 billion for so many projects. Private sector borrows, center borrows, states borrow. You borrow for development, you borrow for green infrastructure, you borrow for physical infrastructure and all that. So it's good that we hold the second largest equity in AIIB. It's good. And you know, beyond which helps you grow. But some of the concerns are, is the AIIB rivaling the World Bank? But AIIB and the World Bank have an agreement, they'll cooperate. Is the AIIB an instrument of Chinese Communist Party? No. More than 100 members are there. America is not there, Japan is not there. European Union is not there. But you got Germany, France, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, more than 100. Who is there? $100 billion is the authorized capital. So maybe you could use it for BRI. But then more than 100 members are there, and there is a board, and the board will have to sanction the loan, so that may be not possible. Are you rivaling the World Bank? You have a cooperation agreement. But then Canada last week told the AIIB, we are freezing our participation because we see that Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated the AIIB, and that gives us apprehensions that Chinese Communist Party would like to use this institution for partisan purposes. What replies it gets, we have no idea. Let's watch the newspapers. So that's about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, headquartered in Beijing. Very factual question. You can see that here. 42 billion is what it has financed. US is not there, Japan, Mexico, EU are not there. But EU is not there. But so many European Union countries out of the 27 members are there. I told you the who is who. Almost everyone is there. 16 of the G20 are AIIB members. 16 of the G20, except these. China has 27% voting power. India holds 8%. They have funded 28 projects worth 6.7 billion in India. Private, state, center, physical infrastructure, green, social infrastructure, everything they have funded. Rural roads also they are funding, augmenting the capital available within the country. Concerns, I've told you, China's World Bank. There is a deep apprehension which is widespread that China had floated this to rival the World Bank, but I have answered that. The next question, MSP pros and cons. We've been following this. You've been following this. You're all writing the main examination. You've been following this. So pros are, take this here. MSP has been raised. What is this MSP? This is June. The rains might have started in Kerala, etc. But cyclone, you keep it out. So farmer, people are saying El Nino is here for sure. Dryness. Crop will be hit. And if the crop is hit, there will be less of production. And the moneylender will take it away at a pre-agreed price. Even if the prices are very high, you can't sell because the moneylender takes it away. Okay, there is no El Nino. Lots and lots of production is there. Then the prices crash. So prices can crash, prices can go high. The farmer can't handle this volatility. Even when they go high, he can't really reap the benefit because the moneylender will take it away. So the government says, you don't worry. You invest. You modernize your technology. You get the best seed. You use the fertilizer. You irrigate. Invest. Show productivity. Grow more. And we will certainly procure it. at MSP, minimum support price. You go ahead. Don't worry. If your crop is lost, of course, fasal is there, Bima Yojana, that's another thing. So this is to ensure that farmer will confidently invest for production, productivity, income at a micro level. Macro level, food security. And there is a body called the Commission for the Agricultural Costs and Prices, CSCP, Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. It's an advisory body, part of the Ministry of Agriculture. But they will go into lots of criteria and then tell you this is support price which is recommended. Accept it, don't accept it, whatever Union Cabinet decides. Rice, wheat, etc. So much of investment, production, food security. The pros are price stability, income support for the farmer, for the country, food security, production, productivity. All these are the pros of it. And investment, terms of trade. After all, if you invest in agriculture, you should get at least as much as when you invest in industry or services, or preferably more. That's called terms of trade. For all this, you are saying, let's go for MSP. But then what is the downside? Irrigation intensive, water guzzler, big farmer, people who have surpluses, that is a rich farmer, and water is getting scarce, etc. So, these are the pros and cons of it. Pros are there, cons are there. Every year the government of India announces 23 crops. 23 crops announces in Haryana 10 days back. All the farmers growing sunflower were on the road agitating. You know what is their demand? They were telling the government, sir, you announced the MSP for sunflower. You procure it? Why are you announcing without procuring? Then the government told them, don't worry, we will procure. So you are announcing for 23, but you are actually procuring only 3 or 4. Rice, wheat, pulses, oil seeds. Some oil, this sunflower is oil seed. You are announcing, but you are not taking. Procuring. So first is gradually shift the emphasis from rice, wheat to millets, nutri-cereals. From cereals to nutri-cereals. How? Use the same instrument that you use to promote rice and wheat now to promote millets. Nutri-cereals. They don't need so much of water. They are one reform. Another is the same thing that I've told you. When you announce, you go ahead and procure. Then some people are saying it is inflationary. How was it inflationary? You're putting some money in the pockets of farmers and so they'll go out and buy. If that is inflationary, then you raise the MSP in line with the cost of production, in line with leaving some profit on the table for the farmer, in line to protect the terms of trade for agriculture, etc. Think of the land, the implicit cost. Yes, the implied cost of it, the land. I've got a tractor, but then if I had to hire a tractor, I've invested in tractor, so I got the tractor. You give me the interest on that. So comprehensive cost if you pay, based on that if you announce the MSP, you need to give a lot to the farmer. And that's when, he'll invest in all it. So change the policy towards using it for promotion of millets. Change the policy to ensure that about the inflation I've told you, see, by raising the MSP, how are you inflating? The market price can be higher. See, there are times when there is shortage of production, the market price is very high, MSP is low, the farmer may not even give it to the government because you would like to sell it in the open market. Go to last year, post Ukraine. You know, the whole world was short of wheat because Russia, Ukraine, wheat producers were at war. Wheat prices skyrocketed. Farmers may not give to the government because they would like the export price. Then you ban the export. That disappointed the farmer. So, farmer is not getting the best of the deals. MSP is here, open market price here. He won't give you. MSP is here, market price is here. He'll give you. So, MSP may fetch him more than the market. MSP may fetch him less than the market. That's not related so much to inflation. If the MSP fetches you more than the market price, which could generally be the case, then the extra money that you have being spent for consumption could create inflation, and that's hardly the subject on which we should be complaining. He's working hard, he's earning. So that's not to be, criticized. So these are the two reforms you could do for, the MSP. I would like to see some questions if you have any. So it'll be nice if you have some questions or you see all this is the introduction to the MSP. We all know this. It's an advice. Tomorrow, in the prelim also the question can come that CSEP sets the price. No. It only recommends the price set by the Union Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. They are the ones who set the price. It's a part of the Ministry of Finance. Recommend. And what are the criteria that based on which they recommend? I told you. Some profit, cost of production, etc. I've already told you. But 23 commodities they recommend. But they don't procure. I gave you the example. Demand and supply, cost of production, price trends, domestic and international. I told you wheat. Intercrop price parity. I would like you to. I want to pay more for millets. Why? So as to attract the farmer for investment in millets. Intercrop price parity. If some crop is selling cheap and some crop is selling high, then for parity and balance, I'll give the cheap crop a little more money. The farmer will get some money. Terms of trade between agriculture and non-agriculture. Implications, consumers of the product. Sugarcane is also set by the Union Cabinet, fair and remunerative it is called, and that at that price the mill procures the cane from the farmer. It is called FRP. Government doesn't procure, mill procures. And this, procurement, go downing, all that is going to cost a lot. So in Madhya Pradesh and Haryana, what did they try? Bhavantar Bhogatan. That is, what's the market price? 10. What is the MSP we have announced? 15. So take 5 rupees. We don't want your grain. We don't want your all these things, 8 kharif crops. We don't want. We just want to help you out. Market is here. And this is 10. And this is MSP, which is 15. The gap is 5. You take this 5 rupees. And you sell at market price, and then you got the MSP 5 rupees. I don't want to take it from you and go down it, a lot of loss and stuff. So, this is the Bhavantar Bhogatan. We don't have any reports as to how it is working. He may ask you the question, what are the alternatives? See, alternatives to MSP is Bhavantar Bhogatan. Why? The 5 rupees I am giving to you is not a part of the food subsidy. because the WTO told you freeze your food subsidy, cap it here, 10% of the value of the agricultural production. So I'm not, if I'm procuring, that will be food subsidy. If I'm giving you money, I'm not disrupting the market forces. So that's not subsidy at all. So Bhavantar Bhutan is to ensure that we are WTO compatible on the level of agricultural subsidies we are allowed. They call it domestic support and all that. Right to Bantu, you know, Telangana says, take this money, use it the way you like. We are not adding it to the, you see, if the government of India and Telangana together are procuring, Telangana chips in with 10 rupees, government of India comes with 30 rupees. The 10 of Telangana is a part of the food subsidy counted by the WTO. But they don't want. They want WTO not to shout at them. So give the farmer unconditional transfer, financial transfer, so that he doesn't have to take money from the money lender. The contract says that you have to sell your produce at a very low price, all that. So, this is also one scheme. And Telangana model, right to Bandhu. And in Andhra, they got right to Bharosa. In Odisha, they've got Krushak Assistance for Livelihood and Income Augmentation, Kalia, 25,000 per farm family. And in Odisha, they give money to tenant farmers also. It's difficult, but they worked out a method. So that's about the MSP and how it is working out and some of the innovations. And yes, please see if you have some questions. I would love to answer them. And with this sort of a chat that we have had for the last 90 minutes, chat means it's a one way, of course. I'm sure you're powered up for the interview. I mean, this main examination. You write well. And any one of you wants to write an answer, 200 words, one answer on any subject of your choice for the main examination. It should not be technical geology or something. Please write it and then send it WhatsApp 9871 7375 to this number. You can WhatsApp handwritten answer. If I want to check one more, I'll ask you one more because I couldn't come to any conclusion about the answer of yours about where you are heading. And yeah, maybe one is enough, maybe two are enough, maybe three are enough. Leave me to decide that. And you're most welcome. After all, it could make all the difference if I tell you how to write and all that. So that's my job for today. And I hope you followed me. And, you understood all this. So I wish you all the best. Yeah. Good night.